Welcome to another episode of Epic Sketch Time. My name is Mark Monlix. If you'd like to participate, please contact me via my Twitter, which is at markmonlux.com. That's MERKMONLUX. I'm going to let everyone else in the room give their names and descriptions.
I am Bill Morse. I'm a cartoonist and illustrator, and I mostly spend my time doing my webcomic, which is Rhapsodies, at rhapsodies.wpmorse.com.
Hey, everybody. My name's Ian Castrita. You can check out my portfolio at unfedartist.com. I'm an illustrator, graphic designer, and a comic artist.
Okay.
So let's see. Did either of you guys go to the movie, the theaters this weekend?
Yes, I did. I saw Valerian.
I saw Valerian too.
While I can nitpick at it, I enjoyed it immensely, and I think a lot of the flack it's getting is mostly unwarranted.
I haven't seen it, but I did look at the Metacritic for it, and I saw that it wasn't doing as well as I was hoping for. But feel free to talk about it. No worries about spoiler alerts or anything like that, unless you're worried about spoiler alerts. But.
Well, on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give it a 7. But then again, I'm a fan of the graphic novel, and I'm a fan of 3G movies, and I'm a fan of robots. So, had a lot going in there that I liked.
Yeah. Of me, a fan of well, I can't say I'm a fan of the original because I've only read one until a couple of weeks ago. I only had access to a single translated copy, which while I enjoyed that one quite a bit, it wasn't enough to base an opinion on.
So you're saying it's getting a lot of flack. What flack are you saying, or what critiques are you guys seeing on the web?
Because I haven't read any of the reviews beyond the one that the guy that Howard at Schlock Mercenary gave it. I haven't gone out of my way to read any of them just yet. He liked the effects and everything, but for the most part, while he said he wanted to like it, regarded it as very under par. I think that's partially a matter of the sticking high standards on stuff, because while there's plenty of stuff that I would criticize, there's nothing better for worse in similar American movies that people go gaga over. For example, it was definitely better than both of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and everybody thinks those are brilliant.
Now, I wouldn't say that was better than the Guardians of the Galaxy movies.
But not worse.
One of my friends who went with me, he didn't like the chemistry. He didn't think there was any chemistry between the characters.
That makes
sense. I thought the film was a little overly filled with exposition.
Mm-hmm.
And it certainly strayed significantly from the graphic novel. I think I have most of my invites sent out. I'm going to go ahead and send out a link via Twitter. First, I have to go into my Twitter account. I spent far more of this weekend on the highway than I anticipated. I went to visit my folks to see my Uncle Bill. That was fine, but I left something behind, my laptop, so that once I got home, I basically had to go, nuts. Plus, I also left my reading glasses behind, so the next morning I got up and went back there yet again. So it was a good chunk of the day just traveling.
Are you guys I'm sure you guys have seen all the Comic-Con news that came out. Like anything kind of pique your interest from all that stuff?
I haven't really dived into the gossip yet. The only thing I've seen from it so far was a really nice Steven Universe clip where we see what Lars has been up to since Steven left him on Homeworld.
Now, I'm not even a Steven Universe fan and don't watch the series.
Yeah, me neither. Well, I know of Steven Universe. I mean, is that something I should give the time, Bill, or do you think
it's very good. It's very good. I mean, check out. I mean, if you want to get a good taste without actually watching it, I recommend you check it out through the way I properly discovered it, which is the look up Crooniverse. Here, the link is this.
Now, I, on the other hand, have watched 2 or 3 episodes of Steven Universe and just don't like it.
Really? Which one? It took me a little while to get into it properly, and because
I'm sorry, but if it's like beer where you have to drink more to enjoy it, I'm just not going to go there.
Maybe you need a few shots to get ready for it.
Let's see.
I take it I shouldn't start preaching IPAs as the joys of IPAs either then.
It would be lost on me, Bill.
I
don't drink booze.
When I think of Steven Universe, I kind of, I guess I throw it into this category of like, okay, what do I have time for? And on the top of my list is Adventure Time. So I want to try to keep up on that, even though I haven't. And then Rick and Morty is kind of in the same category, which I don't know why I throw those all into that same kind of slot, but
I think
they're all Cartoon Network.
Maybe.
I think Rick and Morty is pure genius. There's so much going on, especially, I mean, starting with the character design.
The eyeballs just
those crazy eyeballs with the scrambled. It unnerves you from the very beginning.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, if you're a Adventure Time fan, here's something that might make you interested. The crew of for Steven Universe, most noticeably the showrunner Rebecca Sugar, are Adventure Time veterans. As a matter of fact, Rebecca wrote most of the songs that you like in Adventure Time.
Cool. Now, have either of you? What's the name of that web series? The creator of Adventure Time has a web series, which is, I can't remember the name, and it's bugging me. I guess I'm gonna stop and look that up. Oh well.
I don't think I'd heard of this.
Now, I'm a fan of Regular Show. Loved Regular. My wife and I really got into Regular Show.
Yeah, Regular Show rocks.
Hey.
So this week I'm going to be working on a poster for Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I have them as one of my obscure movie aliens, and it just so happens that a theater here in Tacoma is going to be featuring them, running Killer Clowns. They have sort of like once a month they run an old horror movie.
Yeah.
Last week it was, last week it was Silver Bullet, and I'm kind of upset that I missed that because I just love 80s horror films.
Yeah, I remember you were drawing a Killer Clown from Outer Space a couple epic sketch times ago.
Right, so I'm going to be using that when they said, oh, would you like to do one of the following? And they said Killer Clowns. So, hey, I've got artwork already done.
Yeah.
Or at least the starting point for some artwork done.
So the web series I was thinking of is called Bravest Warriors. It's also created by Pendleton Ward.
Oh, I remember seeing the comic book that I was not aware that it was based on it, but I did see that the art style was similar at the time.
Yeah, it's a fun series. I think there's only one season though, which is a huge bummer. But hopefully it's gonna continue on. But yeah, cool show, especially if you liked Adventure Time. I'll be right back.
So, Bill, why don't you describe what you're working on while he's...
I am working on a character designs challenge that I participate in. Every month it's a different theme. So in the past it was stuff like Venetian Carnival, Centaurs, Game of Thrones characters. This month it's tarot card figures, presumably Major Arcana. So I am working on the Sun, and I'm mostly finished it, and I'm pretty much in the nitpick, clean up the final image before I color it phase. I followed your suggestion regarding the horse heads, by the way. I think I got it right this time.
Yeah, it definitely looks more like a horse.
Uh-huh. And I'm debating with myself whether for the color phase, if I want to use the sun as a separate layer so I can make the lines golden for the coloring effect, though I've found that doing different colors besides black for coloring can be a bit of a mixed bag, so I might try and get that particular idea out of my system.
Where the sun is holding up the mask in front of his face, and where the top line of his arm and where you have that ray coming,
yes,
it's all messed up there.
I thought so too. I'm going to fix it right now.
Yeah, I think if you just angle that ray down sharper, you gotta get those two lines crisscrossing and let's see, steeper angles is, I guess, the best way of saying it.
And I am working on the same thing that I worked on last time I was doing Epic Sketch Time, and just kind of had to put it aside and work on other things. So it's just a general piece of artwork that I'm going to use for social media banners, just not the profile pic, but like that massive banner that's on the top of everything now. I really need a piece of custom artwork for that, so that's what I'm working on.
Cool.
I'm reconstructing the extremely horrible yet easily recreatable Killer Clowns from Outer Space logo, which looks like, there you go, you can see that on my screen right now.
Yeah, that is a terrible look.
I think they purposely went for the whole, some Carney did this type look for it.
Yeah, I can imagine like the original graphic designer is catching wind of this and like, well, those bastards over on Epic Sketch Time have no idea how much time I put on it. I mean, it's good, but it's not amazing.
This reminds me of I was having a friend who was doing one of those, asking me if I could help them favors for this political slogan she made up, and I was doing my usual, I'll be polite but not encourage it, and she just showed, and so she managed to get somebody to help her, and looking at the end product, I almost wish I had let myself get buttered up and helped her with it, because the end product that she showed me is just about every single topography error you can make. I mean, for her purposes, I'm sure she's fine with it, but oh my God, it's ugly and illegible and everything else.
Yeah, it's one of the tough things about being an artist is the honest critique, and just not knowing how to, you know, be completely honest or be politically honest, I guess is the way to say it.
Yeah. I asked about 3 or 4, is not as often as I used to. I used to get asked it on almost on a weekly basis to illustrate people's books. And I just got to the point where I have a form letter telling them my starting rate will, you know, requires $5,000 down. And I never hear back from them after that.
So you send that to like friends and family, or just like everybody?
Anybody.
Yeah.
Because it's always the same. Oh, I have a great idea for a children's book, and we can split the profits 50-50. I write it, you draw it. What do you say?
Yeah, I've heard that story plenty of times.
And I said, well, how are you going to market it? Do you have a publisher lined up? Oh no, I would just do it, you know, print on demand. I'm kind of great. Then I get, you know, 50% of nothing. So cool. I have I just looked, there was I just got isn't this interesting? Just got a Facebook message in. Let me read this to you. I'm looking for, dang, where did it go?
It's not the designer of the Killer Clowns from Outer Space logo, is it? It's like I hear you guys are talking trash. Like, no, we're cool, man. We're cool.
Oh, here we go. Hi, Mark. My good friend David, who I consider to be a phenomenal artist and a creative mind, is writing a comic strip and is looking for a partner who might want to help. He's done a lot of other work in the past, but it's his first comic series he's written. You're the best comic book artist I know locally, so I thought you might have some advice for connections or a workshop or a meetup he could join, or perhaps even a personal interest in seeing what he's doing. Any advice you'd be willing to share would be appreciated. I love to see his idea come to life. Oh, well, that's good. It wasn't asking me directly for help.
Yeah, it kind of was.
Well, I can certainly mention the various meetup groups.
And if he's if he's mobile, I can always mention the existence of Cartoonist Northwest.
Oh, I would be putting that. Well, when he says local, I'm not sure if he means Tacoma or just Pacific Northwest. So I'll inquire and find out. Let's see.
You know, the local thing, I think, at least in my experience, really matters. Like, I tried working remotely with a writer to do a comic, and I mean, there was a few things hitting against it, and that kind of made the project deflate. But just the fact that he was in Los Angeles and I was over in Phoenix, I mean, it really made it kind of difficult to stay excited about the project, and the communication just wasn't as solid as it needed to be.
Was this fairly recently, or are we talking back in the era of non-Skype and stuff?
Yeah, well, I mean, Skype was around, but 2005 or so, 2006.
Because nearly all of my work that I do is out of state. I do very little inside. Well, actually, I need to take that back. The one client that I've been doing a lot of work for of late is located here in Tacoma. But typically, aside from him, all my other clients are in other states.
Well, I'd say, certain projects you can get away with it, like logos, just general quick graphic design jobs, single illustrations. But if you're working on like a massive creative undertaking, like a long form comic or even like a comic strip, I think I'd prefer to be in the same location as the guy you're collaborating with, unless it's just like a one-off, like a guest comic or something like that.
So you would prefer working locally then, rather than?
For a big project, yeah. For something that's gonna take up a lot of time, and you, especially if you haven't worked with the person before, that's something I think I would try to make sure happen, is be in the same town with them. I guess if I ever get tested, though, we'll see how much my resolve matters when it comes down to, like, oh, and I could pay you. It's like, oh, fine, you're in Australia, let's do it.
I was saying, I have clients. My Australia clients love me because of the time difference. There is perfect for them. I'll have a conversation with them in the evening, which is morning my time. They go to bed. They wake up in the morning. They look, and whatever my day's work has been done. I'm like a little brownie that works throughout the night to get the project done.
It tickled Bill there.
I was just imagining the double meaning there. This, as long as they don't give you clothes as payment, you'll be working fine.
So what, if you don't mind me asking, what kind of stuff do you do for your client in Australia?
It's I would say it's a version of editorial work. I do a lot of ODI, which is outcome driven illustrations. So a lot of it is being in the room and listening to people. Sometimes I'll sit on a conference call and I'll do quick sketches and thumbnails, and then I'll flesh them out later on. So it's sort of like they often talk to me, okay, during this in this situation, when I can't do the brainstorming with them, they describe their brainstorming session to me, and then they describe, what the profile is of the concepts. And then I'll hold up a thumbnail and they'll say, oh yeah, that's great, run with that.
Now, have you ever met them in person, or have you always just been remote with them?
Most of my clients, let's see. My clients in England, I've never met. My client in Australia, I happen to have met when I was at when they were at a conference here. So that's how she knew of me. I went to an ODI conference, and that landed me a couple nice projects. Basically, I was given attendance for free. I just had to show up. They even wanted me to show my portfolio in the other room, which I did, because they wanted people to see how using an Illustrator would be helpful to their ODI process. But I still had to pay for my own airfare there, but it was well worth it. I mean, the airfare was only $400, and I ended up with about $5,000 worth of work.
Huh.
Oh, and I also had to pay for my hotel room, so. Let's see.
So what, can you explain a little bit more in detail, like what ODI is all about? Because I've never heard that term.
is outcome-driven innovation. And there are several methodologies behind doing it. There's lots of books written.
It's 5 o'clock. It's 5 o'clock.
Like one of the best books to read about it is by the guy who first started hiring me to do this, a guy named Tony Ulrich. He wrote What the Customer Wants. And then there's another guy named Lance Betancourt, and he wrote a really great book, and he's another guy I've done a lot of facilitation work with. And then there's Sandy Bates, and she wrote a book. I'm trying to remember what it's called. But it's a way of conducting meetings to determine future products and services without that steps out of corporate culture. And because when you're part of a corporation, what tends to happen is you tend to say, oh, we can't do that. We've tried that before. Oh, we know what the client wants. The client really wants this. What this stuff relies on a lot of studies have been done and how surveys are done by second-party companies to conduct. They ask the right questions of the customer base rather than what the company thinks they should be asking. And because you're always going to go in with a bias. And then they come back with real numbers to say, okay, this target sector here is the low-hanging fruit. These are the outcomes that your customers are looking for. Now let's see what type of services we can come up to hit those job needs. And then you go into the discussion from there. So it's not just a random brainstorming. It's very targeted brainstorming. And it's backed by, like I said, an outside survey with real numbers to back, because you always got some guy in the company who's going to say, oh, well, I need to see the numbers for that. So they pull the numbers up and say, here are the numbers. And they can't argue because these people know how to find or know just what to ask, who to ask. I'm looking at this font from Outer Space. If you look on my screen, it's obviously been extended out, but that's not Helvetica, is it? Something else.
Have you ever used whatthefont.com?
Yeah, I've used whatthefont.com all the time. I just was wondering if anyone here.
I don't think it's Helvetica, but pretty similar.
Yeah, I mean, there's just tons of Helvetica copies, so I mean, it could be Arial for all you know. It might have just been modified.
Yeah, it's it's that middle hyphen on that E. It's because when I type it in Helvetica, let's enlarge that. Oh. Ah, there it is. It's that hyphen on the R comes off in a steep angle rather than with that slight little curve. So let's try Arial. But I'm guessing that whoever designed this probably had like little or no budget and probably grabbed the first font they had. And it looks like Arial is a close enough match.
Yeah. Well, do you guys have any opinions on all the movie trailers that came out of the Comic-Con? Like, I'm pretty excited about Ready Player One, but I mean, there's definitely a lot to chew on from all that.
I saw Ready Player One, and I'm not sure what to make of it.
Have you read the book?
No, I haven't read the book.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, this is the first time I had ever heard of it, I think.
Really?
Though I don't know if this was at Comic-Con, but the trailer for the new Del Toro film looks very interesting.
Oh, I saw that. That looks really good.
What is it?
Something in the water? No, The Shape of Water. That's it.
Now, you say Del Toro. Do you mean Benicio Del Toro?
Yes.
Oh,
Guillermo. I can never get his name right. Guillermo. The guy who did Pan's Labyrinth and Pacific Rim.
okay.
Let's see. I'm trying to remember because it's not something I do all the time. How do you go in and apply a square or a grid onto some font to distort the font?
Are you in Photoshop?
Illustrator.
So your transform options, like what you want to try to do is is something that might be better in Photoshop. I don't think you have as many.
I know you can do it in Illustrator because I've done it a lot of times in Illustrator. I just don't remember how to do it right off the bat. It's something I do like every 4 months, just long enough for me to forget how to do it, you know.
Well, I'm guessing it'd be under object, if anything, but you probably want to you want to expand
object because it's editable.
Yeah, so you want to expand the font, or you can outline the font. Either one.
Oh, no, if you outline the font, then it's not editable.
Oh, so you still want to be able to type whatever you want.
Right. In case I probably don't need to, but.
Well, it's under your transform options. Any of your transform options would probably, as far as I know, be what you want.
Let's see. Here's one, two.
So, just out of curiosity, like how much of like the 80s do you guys kind of have an affinity for? I mean, was the 80s just kind of like another decade for you guys, or do you feel like the 80s were like the
most of high school? It was kind of formative.
Yeah. So, I mean, Ready Player One is pretty much all about the 80s, even though it's set in the future, and that's what makes it really cool. But if you haven't read the book, now is a great time, because by the time the movie comes out, you'll have enough time between that and reading the book where you won't be disappointed totally by the book, or by the movie, I should say.
Yeah.
At least that's always what happens to me, is I always prefer the book. But in a nutshell, the book is about an Easter egg hunt. Like if you guys play video games, you know about like just like certain Easter eggs that are hidden by the programmers. And there was a contest that I can't remember it's actually talked about in the book, but there was a contest where if you found certain Easter eggs in video games, you won rewards. And so this kind of has that premise, but it's set in the future, and the reward is like just massive enough that it suddenly throws everybody's in the future into an 80s craze, because all the clues are 80s clues.
I was wondering why I was seeing Iron Giant in the preview.
Yeah, and I mean, is Iron Giant even 80s or?
Yeah, Iron Giant was an 80s thing.
Oh, okay.
Okay, the tool I was looking for was envelope mesh. And then once you apply it, like I have here, it puts, you can tell it how many rows and how many columns you want that grid to be on. And then from there, I'm going to do a quick rough sizing. Once you have that taken care of, you take the small pointer tool and you can start grabbing these dots and moving them.
Well, that's awesome.
And what's nice is it's still editable.
That's one of the drawbacks of being self-taught on some of these programs. You just kind of not know these things that really could save you a lot of time. Like I always just thought this was something that I'd go to Photoshop for.
I used to have to use a completely different program to do this. It was a vector program, and I think what happened was they got bought out by Adobe. I can't even remember the name of that font tool now. But its sole purpose was to do distortions like this. You don't want to make the net too big because then you have way too many things to move around. You typically try to line it up with the same amount of characters. I think it's these dots that are throwing me off here. Maybe if I just replace them with a... Let me see if I can actually edit that like I said I could. Great. Apparently I can't edit it. I thought I could. Now, you both have seen Blade Runner, right?
Oh yeah. Oh,
Sure.
yeah. You saw the trailer for the sequel. It's looking a lot better than the first one. The teaser I saw a couple of months ago implied.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for it.
The guy I normally go to movies with has yet to see the original one. And I'm telling him, he says, is it necessary? I said, yeah, it's necessary. You got to see the first one.
I mean, you got to see the first one anyway because it's one of the great sci-fi films. But
Yeah. I was talking to clients a couple weeks ago, and they told me that they never saw Star Wars, and I was just like, oh man. It's just like,
not getting into the whole geek thing, but how can you? I'm not saying why would one not watch Star Wars, but how?
yeah, it's.
I'm not.
I think for some people, once they reach a point, it becomes like a thing. Like they have to be that person who's never seen Star Wars, so they go out of their way to make sure they never do. Like if it's on TBS or something, they quickly change the channel and try to forget they ever saw it. You know, that kind of thing. because it's become part of their identity at that point. Like they're like, oh yeah, that's me. I'm the guy who's never seen it.
I mean, I'll be one of those guys who does not take kindly to people asking me whether I prefer Star Wars or Star Trek. Answer, I'm burnt out on both of them, and I want new sci-fi franchises.
I remember back in the day when I was just amazed by the Academy Award-winning film Life is Beautiful, and I was just telling everybody that I came across, you had to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
And some guy that I was working with, I told him that, and he's like, "No, I'm not going to go watch that." And I was like, "Really? Why not?" He's like, "Because everybody tells me to watch it." And I was like, "That okay?" It's just like some people just have an adverse reaction to other people's enthusiasm, I guess. I'm not sure how it works.
So I'm going to try redoing that text again, but with less grids. So it's underneath object, envelope, distort, make with mesh. You can then assign it how many rows. I'm just going to go with one row. How many columns? Let's see. Including spaces, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15. And let's see what that looks like on the preview. That almost lines up with all the characters. Pretty good. I'll go ahead with that. Now, my big dilemma has been whether or not to go up to Seattle to watch Dunkirk.
Oh.
Why is that a dilemma?
Because Dunkirk was done in, I think, either Stereoscope or Panavision, and it's using a 70 millimeter film.
So you're want to see it at Cineplex?
No, you're not saying it right. It's the Panorama. And then there's 2 theaters in the Northwest that have the capability for those old extra wide screens. One's the Panorama inside Seattle, and there's another theater inside Bellevue that also has that feature. And I almost did it for the Hateful Eight. And I did find out that Dunkirk was being shown there. I didn't do it for the Hateful Eight because on that particular day when I was planning on going, once you know, I got a call from the client.
So the format that it's shot on, it's an old format that not many theaters have anymore. Is that what you're saying?
That's right. It's an ultra wide format.
Okay.
They were back in the day. Theaters were experimenting with various formats like a CinemaScope and Panavision and the Panorama. One of the forms of videography that they were doing you would use 3 different cameras shooting the shot from 3 different angles. You would then have 3 different projectors projecting those onto a large curved screen.
Wow.
And Seattle is one of the few theaters that still has a space like that. But of course, it was perfect for showing a lot of the other ultra wide stuff that.
Yeah, and Panorama is one of the theaters that all the film snobs, go to.
Well, wouldn't you if you had that available? I'm surprised you don't go to it more often, Bill.
I didn't say I did not use film snob as an insult there.
Now,
I go whenever I get the chance.
I definitely don't think anything like that is over here in Phoenix, so I'm kind of jealous. That sounds cool. But I mean, does this have anything to do with Christopher Nolan and his like backlash against Netflix or whatever? Like him trying to hold on to the old formats or the old standards of movie going, or was that like purely just a stylistic choice? I mean, like.
With someone like Nolan, it could be either one.
I mean, is IMAX comparable to what you guys are talking about, or is IMAX completely different?
IMAX is completely different.
Okay.
Bill, you sound so unhappy.
What? No.
So, Mark, all that lettering is still editable then, or?
Well, I was trying to edit it before, but I was having a hard time doing it. It should be editable, but I'm wondering if I might not know the right command to go in and edit it. Because I was trying to go in and edit it, and I wasn't having much success. I did see Planet of the Apes week before last, but I think I told you guys that.
What did you think? I had a friend who didn't like it at all.
My friend loved it. He thought it was the best Planet of the Apes movie so far. But then again, he also has only seen the most recent franchise and only the first of the classic movies. I'm a child of the 70s and saw all the first 5 movies and loved the TV series and loved the the animation series.
I liked the anime. I grew up with the animation, and the television show had 2 of the toys. Only saw the movies much later on.
I really wanted a Planet of the Apes lunchbox, and my mom says, "Why? You always get a hot lunch."
That thing would probably be pretty valuable right now, huh?
Quite.
The thing that I always regret not buying was the Alien toy figurine when it came out, the 21-inch one. It was $35 back in the day, and there was one in kind of like a dented up box, and I thought, I should just get that. I love the movie, but I didn't, and I'm kicking myself to this day for not doing so.
I haven't actually given any of the new Planet of the Apes movies a chance, just because I don't know. I think I had this thing where with all these reboots, and it was like I was just fed up with it, so I didn't bother to see the first Planet of the Apes. And since there's so many of them now, it's just like, well, I can't watch any of the new ones until I start with the first one, so I gotta.
This current trilogy, the trilogy that they just did is a really good one. Each one goes for a specific message. Each one shows not just Caesar's character development, but a bunch of other ape character developments.
I mean, I think one reason I like this series is because when the movies that it's a remake of were pretty much where they were pretty much scraping the bottom of the barrel, and so they were the last final 3 sequels, and a lot of the science was in it was kind of goofy and everything. So to a certain extent, I think this trilogy fixed all of the problems with those 3 movies and made something new and interesting.
Now, the remake that came out in, what was it? The one with Mark Wahlberg. Was that in 2001 or 2011?
Oh, the only thing I liked about that was Tim Roth's performance.
But yeah, a lot of people just tried to ignore that one.
Yeah. Okay, I think I've mostly got this taken care. I think this is ready for color. What do y'all think?
Yeah, I think you improved the line on the arm quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I still think it's a little awkward, but it's definitely an improvement from where it was.
Oh.
I think it looks okay. I'm just kind of like trying to figure out where some of your where your shade is going to like it. Do you do value studies before you go into the color at all, or
Occasionally, if it's something complex, and I think I will do it because of how much the mask is supposed to be generating. But
I think that single line that's coming from the staff down to the nose of the horse, it's kind of confusing to me, and it doesn't look like it needs to be there. But
you're right. It looks like Oh, thanks for pointing that one out. It looks like where I was having the sleeve and then did another line for the sleeve, so that one very expendable.
But it's definitely a tangent. Like I would move it or something. But outside of that, I mean, looking forward to seeing the finished product.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. That does make a difference.
Yeah, that took away the tangent. That's great. And then I'm kind of curious to see how it turns out, just because of the way the light from the sun is kind of removing some of the contours of the chair behind it and everything. Like I imagine that's going to be managed with color, but right now it kind of looks like left out. So
yeah, I mean it'll be tricky, I know, but as a matter of fact.
Well, it looks like we're rolling up on an hour.
You're right. We should probably call it quits. Thanks, you guys, for joining me this week. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Again, you've been watching another episode of Epic Sketch Time. If you'd like to join us, drawing, we're always looking for new members to join. I know it's the summer months, so we're not quite getting the crowd in here that we normally do, but we'd love to see you. Please contact me by either Twitter, Facebook, or via Google. Send me your Gmail address so that I can invite you in, or you can respond to the Gmail invite that I send out and post. We also have, while we do have a Google community group page, not a lot of people have been going to that, so I've created a Facebook page for Epic Sketch Time, so you can find out if we're going to be having our Epic that particular week. We usually have them on Mondays at 4:30 Pacific time. And I'll see you gentlemen next week.
Y'all have a good one.
See you guys.